With a shaking hand, Sarah pushed the door open. Inside, the room was frozen in time. Dust thick in the air. A large ornate mirror stood in the corner, its surface tarnished and cracked. In its reflection, Sarah could see the ghostly outlines of a family, father, mother, and child, standing together. But their faces were twisted in agony, locked in an eternal moment of despair. As Sarah's gaze locked onto the twisted reflections in the mirror, she felt a cold dread creeping up her spine. The little girl's voice, though faint, was clear. "Help them find the book. In the study. Beneath the floorboards," she whispered, before her image flickered and vanished into the tarnished glass. Heart pounding, Sarah tore herself away from the mirror and rushed down the creaking stairs, the house seeming to close in around her, the walls narrowing and the shadows growing darker. The study, she had passed it earlier, its door barely hanging on its hinges. She skidded to a halt in front of it, shoving the door open with trembling hands. Inside, the room was a mausoleum of forgotten secrets, its air heavy with dust and the stench of decay. She dropped to her knees, frantically searching the worn floorboards, her fingers raw as she pried at each one. Finally, her nails caught on a loose board. With a heave, she lifted it, revealing a small, ancient book, its leather cover cracked and worn. As Sarah reached for it, a sudden gust of frigid air swept through the room, slamming the door shut behind her. She gasped, the sound barely audible over the rising wind that seemed to howl from within the walls themselves. Gripping the book, she flipped it open, her eyes scanning the pages filled with cryptic symbols and illegible scrawl. But one phrase stood out, its letters seared into the parchment as if written in fire. "The lost must be found." A chill ran down her spine as the temperature in the room dropped even further. The book began to tremble in her hands, vibrating with an energy that felt ancient and angry. The pages turned of their own accord, stopping on a page depicting a family tree, its branches twisted and gnarled. At the bottom, Sarah's breath caught as she saw a name she recognized, her own. Suddenly, the room was plunged into darkness, the air thick with an overpowering presence. Sarah's flashlight flickered and died, leaving her in total blackness. She heard the faint sound of footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate, echoing from within the walls. Then a voice, deep and malevolent, whispered in her ear, "You're part of this now. You always were." The darkness pressed in, and Sarah felt a cold, spectral hand graze her cheek. She screamed, stumbling back as the walls of the study groaned, twisting and closing in around her. In a flash of terror, she realized the curse wasn't just tied to the family. It was tied to her. The mansion had lured her, pulling her into a sinister legacy that demanded more than answers. It wanted her soul. Just as the darkness closed in, the book in her hands flared with light, forcing the shadows to recoil. But before Sarah could understand its power, the light blinked out, plunging her back into blackness. A child's whisper echoed from the void. "He's coming for you." And then the door creaked open. The nightmare was only beginning.